Hello and welcome to the Community Voice. I am Fara Sax. Today's story is one of resilience, service, and unshakable determination. Teresa Murphy is my guest today, and she is an inspiring educator, winning Teacher of the Year. She is also a stroke survivor and a breast cancer warrior. And in July, she will represent the United States in the Breast Cancer Dragon Boat Division in the World Championships. And she joins me today. Teresa, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It is a complicated story. It is one of adversity to triumph and everything in between.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your journey and how this began.
I think first and foremost, it's important to note that I was faced with tragedy early in my life, and that tragedy enabled me to learn how to set a goal to get through the pain. And I lost my brother at a young age, and I was a terrible teen during that time. Just, all the things that teenagers go through in tragedy. And I got tired of feeling sad and feeling sorry for myself. And after my brother passed away at 16, I was 14. A couple years went by, about a year went by, and I decided I was going to set a goal to graduate and walk in his place a year early. There was no reason for me to, for an administrator to think that I was capable of doing that because I was just going through so much. But there was an administrator that really believed in me and signed off on everything. I graduated early and I was able to walk in my brother's place. And I think that's significant because it was kind of my journey in when you're faced with tragedy, you've got to find a way to set a goal to get yourself out of it.
And so at that time, what was your goal?
I wanted to ease my mother's pain and allow her to see a child walk in graduation as they were supposed to that year in 1987. So it was, to help my mother and I process pain at that time. And I think that's when I learned to find purpose in pain, if you will.
And we're flash forwarding. I know this is difficult, and I really appreciate you sharing your story. It is my hope through this interview that people realize the resilience, that there's purpose after tragedy, of trauma, and really driving it into a positive, making lemonade out of the lemons, so to speak. And tragedy hit again in 2012 when you suffered multiple strokes.
Correct. So back in 2012, I was in a novice CrossFit competition and I tore my right carotid artery. I did not know at the time. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what that was. I had a friend, Stacy, who had suffered a stroke prematurely at the age of 36 a year earlier, and I helped her and her husband navigate that process.
And what we're looking at right now, we're looking at a picture. So tell me what we're going to get back to the story, but tell me what's going on in the picture.
So Stacy, who's there in the wheelchair, she's the one that helped me navigate my health care after I helped her navigate hers, and she really taught me that I needed to advocate for certain tests, that something was wrong, and these are what I needed. And she saved my life. She was an educator at the school I was at. And
so she suffered a stroke before you.
She did.
So she walked the walk, and she helped you as you help others. It's an amazing community of support.
Absolutely. And I say that you're not always fortunate to know why someone is in your life, but sometimes you are fortunate enough to know. And I know why I know why we met 10 years prior to this experience. Like, it just all came together. My daughter and I started an organization called STACY, which stood for Stroke Awareness Can Empower You. And it was really to help the community understand that strokes are more common in younger people than most people think. They're often overlooked because you're young. But
how old were you at that time?
I was 42.
And how did it present?
So I felt a tingling on the left side in my face and in my arm. And I was very concerned. It was slightly numb, but I was still able to function. And I went to doctors and hospitals who said it's just a migraine and here's some Percocet. And I said, no, it's not. And then within 4 days, I was at work and I lost my speech and left side and had to be taken by rescue to the hospital.
You're not the first woman that I've interviewed where stroke symptoms were you're anxious, you're a woman, and you're highly stressed out. I've heard this story repeatedly, and these women have gone home after being wanting medical attention, and it was written off, and it got worse and worse. And thank God they were here to tell their story to me
Yes.
further down the line, as you are with me today. So how do you advocate for yourself, or do you share this story with other women to advocate for themselves in this process?
That's a great question. It's very difficult to advocate for yourself because sometimes you feel like you're this glorified hypochondriac. I went from never going to the doctor, hospital, to pushing for tests that no medical professional thought that I needed. And I just say, I mean, if you think something is wrong and different, listen to your body whisper before it screams. There's something different. You know that it's different. Don't dismiss it, and do not allow the medical professionals to dismiss it. Keep asking for help until they can identify what's causing your pain, your discomfort, your feeling, something that's not normal to you. And I think we just, I had a notebook and pen and pencil with me at all times. I had people by my bedside taking notes, writing questions down to ask, not to be that Google doctor, but to know what questions to ask. So yes, I Googled a lot, but it was.
Well, you're an educator.
Yes.
So, it just goes with the profession, I guess.
It does.
And moving forward, 2020, some great things happened and some not so great things happened. You were bestowed the honor of Teacher of the Year, but at the same time, you had another tragedy.
Yes. So the beginning of 2020, in March, we went home March 13th. I remember it was Friday the 13th. The schools closed down and everything changed. And I went, I was teaching online, I was super excited about it. I actually thought I was doing a great job until about June, when I realized I feel like these kids are not really listening to me. And I would see like some gaming in the background, some mirrors reflecting things. And I thought, okay, I'm going to spend all summer working, and I'm going to do better in the fall. And I spent all summer, and about a week before school was about to begin virtually, I was diagnosed with breast cancer in the middle of COVID. And it was difficult because all of your diagnosis, your treatment, everything is alone, on your own. No one can come with you. So I was diagnosed alone, and I was treated alone.
What were you thinking during that time?
I was angry briefly. I was sad briefly.
Briefly.
I learned through most of my tragedies that you have to keep it brief. You have to have it. You need to be angry. You need to grieve. You need to be sad. You need to allow yourself the grace to do that. It's okay, but you cannot live in that space permanently or for any extended length of time, or it's going to prevent you from healing and from getting through what you need to get through. So I got diagnosed. I drove home. Manny asked me what happened. I said, I have an exercise class upstairs. I'll talk to you when I went through the class and told everyone. They said, oh, did you go to the doctor today? I said, yes, I have cancer. We're going to finish this. And everyone just stood on my virtual screen a little bit shocked. And I just thought, this is how I have to get through it. I have to feel bad. I have to grieve. But then I sat back and I thought, when I had my stroke, I was actually in the best physical fitness of my life. And when I had the cancer, I was too. And instead of focusing on why did this happen to me, I became grateful that it happened to me at a time where I could physically be in a position to get through it. And I thought maybe that was a gift, not,
How did you get through it? We're looking right now at your chemotherapy. Talk to me about that. What was going through your head at that time?
I'm not gonna lie, that chemo's the hardest thing to go through.
I could see the emotion. What's going on when you think of chemo? You have cancer and chemo, the same letter. How different is that from each other?
I didn't feel sick. So when I was diagnosed with cancer, I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel sick. I didn't feel like anything was wrong. It was the best health of my life. And I thought I would teach a little bit just up until my surgery, right? I really hadn't planned on teaching through all of this. But once I started, you get in front of the kids, and in this case, we were online, and you have to put on a show, a song and a dance, and you feel better, right? You feel good because you're, teaching the kids, you're getting feedback from them. And then I thought I'll teach just until chemo. And chemo didn't seem that bad that day. It was a little painful. I had a cap on to prevent some hair loss, and that was a bit painful. That was really painful. It wasn't a bit painful. It was very painful. But it was a couple of days following that I didn't expect. And I was very sick for 3 weeks.
Is this what we're looking at? Is that picture on the left-hand side?
Yeah, with the cap.
Yeah.
I thought it would be a day or so afterwards, so I'd throw up, and then I'd go back to work. And it proved a bit harder than that. But selfishly, the children online were giving me this forum to forget what I was going through. Cried a little bit at 3:00 when class ended. It was hard. And I thought I'll just do it for one more day. And one more day turned into a week, turned into a month. And during treatment, I was not teaching. Like when I was in that chair with that purple cap, I was not, because I could not hide from the kids during that. I was able to hide my treatment on the other days through Snapchat, filters and different things, and that was important to hide because they were losing their parents and their grandparents during COVID.
Absolutely. And what you have 2 children at that time?
I do.
Incidentally, Teresa and I were neighbors for many years, and serendipitously through a third party, we got together for this interview, unbeknownst to me that this was my Teresa Murphy down the street living in West Kendall. That's really crazy how that all works. But what was that like? Because your 2 beautiful children, Megan and Michael, what was that like for them to see their mother, the adversity that you had been through the first time, the second time, and now here you are with cancer schmancer, as it's a real thing. What was that like?
Yeah. So, being a single parent when I went through the stroke, my kids had to kind of step up and had to help me navigate a lot of that. Michael was the first person I called. He was 25 at the time, I guess. I felt bad afterwards.
In my mind, he's still that little kid running down the street playing with mine kids.
And I felt bad afterwards that I could call your son first. But Michael said something to me that gave me such confidence, both in my parenting and in my future getting through the cancer, which was, I know I should be worried, but I'm not. You just seem to be able to get through everything. And I thought, wow, I guess I need to live up to that. He had such confidence in me, and that just propelled me. I think it's why I went home that day and just said, let's get to work. Megan graduated during COVID from UF, and she was supposed to go into nursing school and hadn't gotten in, and she was home, and she was going to be studying nursing, and she wound up nursing me and got into nursing school the day after my last treatment.
What an amazing story. My mom was patient 1 for me. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
What a bond that must have created for you and your kids.
Oh, and I have exceptional children. They are, the academics aside, they're exceptional humans.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
would
important.
I would vouch for that as well. And then moving forward, the beautiful Dragon Boat. And that was founded by Dr. Don McKenzie in 1996. And it was he says it's a vigorous upper body exercise that might worsen lymphedema, excuse me. And he said, no, it doesn't. It helps the symptoms. And the first boat team was called Abreast in a Boat.
Yes.
In Vancouver. And here we are, 2025, and you are going to be representing the United States, the only woman locally.
In the breast cancer division.
In the breast cancer division.
Yes.
Wow, you are my hero. Here you are on the boat. Let's talk about that. What does that look like to see that? You just took a deep breath.
You know, in 2023, when I started the venture, I thought I've never been in a competitive sport, a team sport. I always had my kids in them and I knew the value, but I personally had never done that. And I thought, I'm not going to race. I'm just going to do this for the therapy that I heard that it gives you. And I got bitten by the dragon, as they say. And I went into my first competitive race later on that year. I think it was November of 2023. And well, the rest, they say, is history.
Absolutely. And this boating expedition is not new. It's a 2,000-year-old Chinese tradition for resiliency and for camaraderie and talk about that. What is that like now? Because you get up in between us getting together and talking about this interview. I'm training today. I'm on the water. What is that like to have a team of women that have been through their own stories, but together you are moving through water. You are together achieving something. Body over element. What does that do? What is that like?
You know, when you get together on that boat and you think about the value of synchronicity, right? And keeping everything in sync, it's to propel that boat forward. And in life, things are the same way, right? Like when you keep things in sync in your life, you propel forward, you know? And I think about, you know, there's so many lessons in life, and I have a few that line up with dragon boating. Balance, you know, we have to keep that boat balanced. If we don't, we're going to flip over. We're not going to continue that forward motion. And in life, it's the same way, right? You're going to balance your family. You're going to balance your job. You're going to balance, you know, your hobbies. All of those things are so important. Sitting on the boat and not just floating along, as we call it. You know, you've got to give power. You've got to be an active participant. You've got to drive hard. You know, we've got to be flexible. All of these things on the dragon boat, but are also essential in life. So that alignment made me realize that dragon boating is a lot more than just sitting on a boat and winning a race.
It's very interesting. I want to run that video, and I want to do it with audio because it's just amazing. I never knew there was drum beating and rhythm. And can we roll that, Alex?
Ready. Attention. Go.
And what I didn't know was that beating of the drums, and it's that rhythm, and it's that teamwork. And these are women from young, from the pictures, to middle-aged, to a little older, and it's just coming together for this mission. What has that done for you? How has that healed you?
Well, this particular team that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of, which is the first Team USA inaugural breast cancer division, is a huge responsibility, right? We're representing breast cancer survivors internationally, but for Team USA across the nation. We're from about 12 different states across the USA. And we have this incredible responsibility to just show the world the strength, the resilience, the possibilities, especially after navigating breast cancer. And in that video, that was some of the trials for Team USA. And there's women on that boat that are in treatment. They're going through chemo and radiation, and they're on that boat.
No excuses.
Doing those.
No excuses. They have no excuses.
Yeah, it's impressive. It's impressive to watch. And we've got women on the team in their 70s and in their 30s. So it's a great representation of the breast cancer world, which sadly, doesn't leave really anyone out of the possibilities. And men have breast cancer as well. We don't have men on the team, but men have breast cancer as well.
So these are all survivors. What are we doing here in this picture?
So my students made it a class project, all drew names, and they wrote to the Team USA members, and their words hit home to I know, because I'm a teacher, right? I know how important the words are from kids, but they said, what do we write to them? And I said, well, tell them about you, share your experiences, share your own struggles, talk about when you tried to make a team, or talk about the things that you've heard me say that keep you, believing in yourself. And they opened those cards, and we had tears, and they all wound up writing back, and it just unified a already unified team even stronger, because they now had these kids, and they realized this is part of the community that is supporting us. There are so many supporting us, and now they all have pen pals, which is great.
Have you met the people that you're going to be working with?
Yes.
Is that the team?
That is the team.
Where are you training?
So out of Sarasota.
So people are coming from all over the United States and convening in Sarasota to get to know each other and each other's skill and
Yes.
to.
So Angela Long from Survivors in Sync is our head coach, and an amazing human being. She's had this team for quite some time. She has an amazing story. She's also a breast cancer survivor. And there were some camps actually in California and also in New Jersey, to, locate different areas to try to bring in, make it easier for the community to get to different trials and so forth. Our latest camp will be next weekend in Sarasota. And it's just been an amazing experience to get together because you paddle on your own team, but at the end of the day, we can all paddle differently. So it takes an enormous amount of effort to synchronize, if you will,
Absolutely.
a team together, and to make sure that we can work together. And she looked for a team that would, yes, be strong, but it was also important to her to see us work well together and communicate as a team.
And how did you get chosen?
Well, I wouldn't call it chosen.
Oh, I call it chosen.
Yeah.
Selected,
Yeah.
voted into. What kind of word would you like?
It was grueling trials.
Okay, let's say the
yes.
warrior came out, the warrior woman.
So I thought that I would embark on the journey as kind of a 2-year process, right? I would go through the process and then in 2 years be prepared to be a part of this team. But once you start going through the process of training and setting a goal, you get a little bit closer, and you just want to drive a little bit harder. Angela was a person who also looked for our strengths, but also helped us identify our weaknesses and our areas of improvement, which as an educator is important to me, right? So she zoned in on each individual and I got stronger and stronger. Things that I hated to do, like the erg, that rower.
Erg?
Yes.
Just that word just scares me.
Yes.
Erg. What's an erg?
That's the rower,
But it's, what I find interesting, are you only on one side?
So in a dragon boat, you paddle on one side at a time. And some of the training involves paddling on both sides. If you're in an outrigger, as we call them, an OC1, you can train on both sides. I recently learned how to do that. A lot of new things I learned how to do this year.
It's amazing. And on the top, we have a QR code. We are doing a GoFundMe. This is not a solo endeavor. You are doing this money out of your pocket. You have no sponsorships. You recently, though, got a beautiful check from Cigna that I'd like to recognize. So perhaps you would like to give a shout out to them as well.
I would. So Cigna has offered to support me with some of the expenses that are involved. It is. We've traveled a lot since January. We are traveling to Germany. We have uniforms. We have hotels. We have airline. We have a lot of expenses. Nothing that I would trade. It's been a blessing to turn obstacles into opportunities and problems into possibilities. And with their help and the community, I have been able to do that. And I want to represent the breast cancer community in the best way I can. I've been fortunate enough to participate on Broward Fierce Fighters in Fort Lauderdale and SOS Save Our Sisters in Miami. And both teams have been essential in giving me what I needed, a forum to practice, to put into play what I'm doing with Angela's team for Team USA. And
I love the fact that we are here to help you, and the QR code that people can scan, they can donate to your GoFundMe page.
Thank you.
And to offload some of these expenses, support a really worthy cause, and showing support of a community. And for Teresa, this is an amazing opportunity, not just for her, but for all those that she represents in daily basis and through the people that she's touched and helped along the way.
Yeah. And I think it's, I've said that listen, we want a gold. We do. But it isn't about being the best in the world. It is about being the best for the world. And I think if we keep that mindset, then this is bigger than just the World Championships. This is really something that we hope will help men, women, cancer survivors of any sort understand that there is an opportunity for you to get through this, and it will be hard, but you can find communities and groups and organizations and exercise that will help facilitate your therapy.
And also, just as a parting word, you have supporters, you have family members, you have partners, spouses. It's hard for them too.
For sure. Initially, when I was diagnosed, I made my story very public. I went on Twitter, I went on Facebook, and I remember Manny saying to me, he's like, I'm getting all these calls. How does everyone know you have cancer? And I said, I love you, but you need a support system, and it can't be me this time. This is something that I'm someone who has helped. I help the children, I help my school, I help my husband, I help, the different aspects, but I knew in this moment that I needed to help myself first, that whole oxygen mask on you first. So I needed that ability to do that.
Teresa Murphy, thank you so much for joining me today and in this mission. And if you want to donate and get involved, the QR code is on the top over my left shoulder. It's backwards. But again, thank you so much for this time, and may you have many good years of health and helping the world as well as kick some butt in Germany and whatever happens, it's been a pleasure, and continue fighting. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you getting my story out.
And I want to thank you for joining me and spending the time. And I hope you learned something. And you're never alone. You have a community. And I want to wish you well today, and have a great day and a great tomorrow. I'm Fara Sax. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.